We are back with more Warhammer World Championship action. The Phoenix King versus the Wood. I believe at this point of recording, I have 4 more series left to go before we get to the top 16, and then I will start using a bracket so you guys can see the development of the tournament. But the round of 32, there was some early action, weird stuff, and it's hard to fit a 32 bracket on the screen and not make the names tiny, so 16 is just cleaner and nicer. So after we get out of the top 32, you will get a bracket update every video, but not yet. The Phoenix King, as his name implies, is an Elven specialist player, but has been in the community for a very long time, and does a lot of great work on my Discord server for our best of 3 land battle conquest and domination matching bot. So do feel free to come by our server and play on that if you want to find some people outside the quick battle ladder. Generally adhere to tournament rules and limits to army compositions in the conquest and domination, the game modes. You know, that's all you really have to do. You don't have to do attacking rules or anything. So if you're intimidated by tournaments, that is a good place to start. And the Phoenix King has done a lot of great work on that bot for us, so we appreciate him greatly. But shoutouts aside, he is versus someone I've literally never heard of, TheWould, in all capitals. Currently, TheWould is playing on the greenskins with an Orc Boy frontline, Goblin Spears, Ruglin's Armored Orcs, Grom the Paunch, then 2 Goblin Bolt Throwers, a Snotling Pump Wagon, and some Orc Boar Boys and Boar Boy Biggins. No caster? Question mark? Oh, okay, a flanking, stalking Goblin caster. Night Goblin Shaman with Vindictive Glare is trying to get side shots down the oven lines. Makes sense. Burn the Phoenix Kings, Wood Elves, Dryads, and Eternal Guards. Some Glade Guard with Starfire Shafts. Durthu, a big boy. Block of Doom and Sword of Daith. And then Wild Hunters of Kurnos. Some Wild Riders, some Glade Riders. But yeah, I've never heard of TheWould. I don't know if he's big in the domination scene. I don't know if he's new to the scene. I was talking to Snail Cream, well, not to Snail Cream, in a conversation that involved Snail Cream on a Discord server. And I learned Snail Cream is Korean, so probably just hasn't been running in the same circles as me, and I wonder if TheWould is from a similar ilk. Whatever. Happy to see him. Hope he does well. Gotta root for my boy Phoenix King, though. Sorry, TheWould. Ruglin's Armored Orcs taking a very punishing couple volleys from the Glade Guard Starfire Shafts. Normally their armor does help them in the Archer versus Archer duels, but the Wood Elves' superior numbers and armor-piercing arrows spells the end of those Regiment of Renown Orcs. But now the Archers need to turn their focus onto the mobility elements before their front line breaks. If their front line breaks, then they are at the mercy of the greenskin lines. You can see the Wild Hunters Kurnos pulling up, about to do a lot of damage to the Snotling Pump Wagons. They will be easily destroyed by the Wild Hunters Kurnos, so decent start here for the Wood Elves. Though that front line, as you mentioned, is starting to break and shatter. A Wah is out, and the Snotling Pump Wagons are just ignoring the Wild Hunters of Kurnos and trying to dive deep onto the Glade Guard. It's only going to work for a little bit, then they lose half their HP on the charge and do get annihilated. As Durthu is trying to push into that back line, 2 Goblin Bolt Throwers are just lighting him up right now. Durthu has lost half of his HP, which is pretty darn bad for the Wood Elves, but some Wild Riders get back here. And the Orc Boar Boys were successfully peeled away by, I believe, Sword of Daith, Flock of Doom, and Archer Fire, which leaves the back line open for the Wild Riders to get onto the Goblin Bolt Throwers. But more Orc Boar Boys are coming over. Archer's trying to peel a little bit for the Wild Hunters of Kurnos. Does take those guys down to half HP. But they will get a charge on the Wild Riders anyway, saving the Goblin Bolt Throwers and keeping Durthu under pressure, who has now reached half HP with a Vindictive Glare. Both sides getting into the disrupting the enemy backline game, however, as Goblins and Orc Boar Boys rampage through the backline, pushing away Glade Guard Starfire Shafts that are already routing from other sources of damage. We're just going to make sure they keep retreating. 1 Glade Guard remains. Durthu is going to try and protect it with his life, marching forward with his Sword of Daith drawn. And Grom is in for a bad time as he gets flanked. Lucky Banner popped for 40% damage resistance. Very good timing and discipline on saving that for if you ever run into Durthu. Wild Hunters of Kurnos trying to cycle charge down some Goblins as they fight with Eternal Guard. Meanwhile, the Goblin Bolt Thrower crews survive. Both of them have been knocked off their mounts, but I imagine they'll get back on soon. There we go. They're going to resume firing probably at Durthu once more, just that consistent damage, because the Greenskins can struggle to kill Durthu in melee in the late game unless they bring, like, I don't know, 2 Giants or something like that. But the Bolt Throwers are going to do a great job of just attritioning him down so that the Greenskins can finish him off. Bounce power shifted far against the Wood Elves at this point. Broken Test Mob take a nasty volley from a couple Glade Guard that the ThePhoenixKing has managed to rally and or protect. He's had this one that's kind of walked through the whole battlefield constantly just trying to stay safe, but it looks like we finally run out of places to hide as the second wall is popped. The Pig Riders charge in, and that is probably the end of those Glade Guard Starfire Shafts. While Orc Boar Boys are traditionally terrible at killing infantry quickly, I mean, unbraced archers as they get a full-on charge is an easy enough situation that Boar Boys can clear them out. Bounce power is nearing the point of no return for the Wood Elves. They have a couple rallying light cavalry coming in from the background, but most of that bounce power left is in Durthu, and we do have two Goblin Bolt Throwers that are just constantly chucking spears his way, slowly picking off that HP, peeling the bark off the tree, as it were. Greenskins haven't even bothered to capture the point, and I don't see them rushing to do so anytime soon. It looks like they just want to keep chasing down any Wood Elves they managed to rout. Keep damaging Durthu, so they're going to go for a damage army loss, not a capture point, and I think that's fine. Wild Riders that rallied did manage to sneak in and get the Goblin Bolt Throwers, and the Glade Riders that rallied on the other side also did so, so the Wood getting surprised a little bit, not fully aware where rallying units could be coming in onto his Bolt Throwers, but the ThePhoenixKing's Wild Rider charge didn't even knock the Bolt Thrower crews off their mounts, that or they just got on insanely quickly, but they are already back online and firing at Durthu. I kind of wish Durthu had just waddled back to the Bolt Throwers at this point. Like, just walk over there, kill the only thing that's really threatening to you, and then dare the Greenskins to slowly funnel into you in the late game where you just cast Flock of Doom over and over again on a bunch of wounded Orc Boys and Orc Boar Boys. Because honestly, without the Bolt Throwers, the only thing here that can harm Durthu is Grom. And Grom would lose that duel with Durthu depending on his HP at the time. But I'm thinking like 7 or 8 decisions ago for Durthu, just walk him back here, right? I remember a time where both front lines were engaged and Durthu ended up like standing here and the Bolt Throwers were both shooting at him. Since then, I'm like, man, I wonder what would have happened if Durthu had just walked at the Bolt Throwers ominously and just dealt with them himself. But I mean, that's some hella hindsight. I'm not trying to say that like, well, why didn't you just do that? I'm just kind of curious as I look back on the game. I wonder. Because it's clear what ThePhoenixKing was doing is bringing Durthu to any blob fight or cav fight he could, got some good damage out, used Flock of Doom and Sword of Daith and stuff. I understand what he was doing, but just in hindsight, the Bolt Throwers took such a nasty toll on him. I wonder if he should have hunted them down himself. I'm going to fast forward a little bit as we have a bit of Benny Hill going on. The Greenskins are trying to clean up the last of the Wood Elves, and Durthu is trying to make sure those Bolt Throwers stop harassing him. That is what's going on for now. Army losses takes Durthu out, though, before he even rejoins the force. A little surprised. I guess Grom has a lot of balance of power, but I was looking at the battlefield and I'm like, none of this stuff is particularly healthy, so I thought we would get one final showdown with Durthu. Archers did overall okay. Wild Riders struggled. Actually, the ROR struggling is a big deal. For the Wood, Grom really didn't participate much, just kind of disrupted some things, but not a lot of value for him. Night Goblin Shaman did fine. Orc Boys got a lot of value. Orc Boar Boys did okay. Outling Pump Wagons did pretty well, and the Bolt Throwers did pretty well. GG's. Game 2. ThePhoenixKing pivoting away from his beloved elves as the Wood takes up Norska, and that is a Hayseed build. My boy Hayseed, I think I won the series in the end, but he took a game off me in a tournament. I think it was Cathay versus Norska, but he just brought like legitimately 6 Marauder champions, and I was not ready for that much elite infantry. So here we have Marauder Bearmen and Marauder champions, 4 champions, 5 Bearmen, and then 5 Javelin throwers, Wulfric the Wanderer with Seafang and Hunter of Champions, and a Firecaster with Burning Head. Then the Marauder Chariot, but an incredibly simple and straightforward build from the Norskins. We are going to walk at you with axes in hand, chop you to death, and call it a day. For the Vampire Coast, maybe some more nuance. We have triple bomber mobs, a Gallows Giant, Necrofex Colossus ROR with its fire attacks. And we have Vampire Fleet Admiral of Pole Arms with Gaze of Nagash, Summon, and Invocation in a Heck. Use the Gaze of Nagash on the Shaman Sorcerer of Fire. Gets a little bit of poke down, but not as much as you would have wanted for an overcast. Other than that, we have Handgunners, Deckhand Mobs, Scurvy Dogs, the Lamprey's Revenge, and that is about it. Can the Lamprey's Revenge and the Necrofex Colossus kill an unholy amount of infantry? Yes or no? ThePhoenixKing wisely is going to take the point in the early game. Wants to make sure that if the Norskins want to play footsie around the sides, that he will be accruing that value in the meantime. Also realizing that if it comes down to a late game situation, there's literally no chance that his Vampire Coast army can push 9 elite Marauders off of the point in melee, at which point you're going to have to army loss your opponent anyway. So he wants to take the point, make the Norskins take it from him, which is much easier for the Vampire Coast to deal with. Pretty terrible at advancing, especially when you brought your gun line units. Maybe if you go like Morngul, Crab, Animated Hulk, Cyrene, Depth Guard type unit rush, then yeah, you can take a point, but like that's not what we have here, obviously. Nice Seafang down the side of the handguns mob. I wonder if he's going to bother with an Invocation of the Heck, or if he's going to accept that the unit's just dead. Why I wonder that is because the handgunners are not going to be particularly useful in this fight. Traditionally, they're great. The handgunners of Vampire Coast are one of the best gunline units in the whole game. But the one thing they're not really good at dealing with is infantry-sized stuff. It's like, man, we're great versus cavalry, we're great versus monsters, we're great versus chariots, we're great versus horse characters, on and on and on. They're really not good against infantry. And that's all there is. I guess there's one chariot for them to shoot at, and if Wulfric walks up to them, they can shoot him, but he doesn't seem inclined to do that. Vampire Ghost have the point, and Norska is being strangely passive. They're just letting this happen. I think the Wood is trying to save up for the next Seafang. It looks like we have a Burning Head coming through now. So he is just trying to bombard the enemy with spells and take his time for that, but I do wonder if he's being too passive. Beautiful Burning Head, though. Takes out an entire bomber mob, so in the end, that one's worth it. And then that is a hell of a curve. That is a curve. That was going in one straight line. ThePhoenixKing started to dodge, and the Burning Head said, nah, and followed him along. And I know, it hasn't been truly random for a long time, but Burning Head's tooltip doesn't say fucking homes people and runs them down no matter where they try and go. That one was a little obvious. That one was a little on the nose. That was some wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Be a shame if your entire bomber mob died. Nice bomber mob you have there. Shame if something happened to it. Levels of extortion. That Burning Head would not hold up in court, is all I'm trying to say. Shit was too obvious. Okay. Really rough start for the Vampire Coast then. Seafang's hard to dodge. I'll give you that one. And then the Burning Head, he tried to dodge it, and then it just kind of, said no. All right, but like, there's not much else the Coast wants to be doing. It sucks that Burning Head happened. It sucks that the Seafang happened, but they do have the capture point. At this point, I'm going to ×2 speed until Norska decides to pull the trigger. They are setting up a bit of a surround. I honestly think they could have gotten a lot more aggressive about the surround if they were going to play this slowly. But here we go. Another Seafang went through that polearms mob. I wasn't looking at it, but I can tell from the half HP and no giant Burning Head scar. There's a giant Burning Head scar. Takes out a polearms mob, tickles the handgunners enough to get them to start crumbling once again, so they will now wipe themselves out. But, no, okay. I think Norska is doing fine, honestly. They have supreme confidence they can absolutely massacre the Vampire Coast infantry in melee super quickly, and I think they're probably correct. But we are getting dangerously close to the point where he's going to be late on the trigger pull and just show up too late. Because now, as of right now, he has 5 minutes to take that point, which is a long time, relatively. When melees start, melees do not last very long, but you're starting to get a little risky, is all I'm trying to say. I think if he starts advancing at 420, that's probably too late. So I think before 420, he has to advance. Seafang through another handgun mob. The Gallows Giant has been cautious. He only has 110 range, so he's close to the 90 range of the javelins. I think in hindsight, again, a lot of hindsight analysis, but in hindsight, he could have been out here poking with like good micro. He could dodge the javelins, but that range difference is so small that if he gets stuck in a shooting animation and they get in range, they could get a lot of damage on him. But one of the handgunners has faded away. Another deckhand mob getting hit with a Burning Head. Looks like he's going to start... ThePhoenixKing is going to start using summons to harass the javelins so that his Gallows Giant gets to shoot uncontested. As it is going to open up on the Marauder Champions. Solid damage on those elite infantry. And the burnt leadership debuff plus under artillery fire is quite a lot. And this is still a terror piece. So if you hit them with a volley and then walk up to them, you can easily tear out a lot of these Marauder type units as the javelins almost route from one head-on volley with the Gallows Giant. That's kind of insane. His handgunners are side shooting into them. Great job pushing them away, and the Phoenix King is sneaking his dogs through the front line to now harass the units that have already gotten their leadership debuffed by being hit by the Gallows Giant a couple times. Summon's also harassing another one, so really good unit management now that the fight has started for the Phoenix King. The early game was rough as he just tanked a bunch of spells, but all he has to do is hold on for 200 more seconds. If he can just not die for 3 minutes, he's going to win this game by default. So Norska is the one that has to push forward here, and I would not be surprised if you start seeing some summons to buffer this front line, not to hold the point, but just to hold Norska away from the point. Because if Norska puts bodies on the point, it's so hard for the Vampire Coast to get them off, so he really wants to maintain distance. Wulfric is trying to take a fight with the Vampire Fleet Admiral of pole arms, while the Marauder Bearmen and Marauder Champions are marching in from the flank that has been devastated by spells, and they're entirely ignoring the battle. They don't really want to fight the Gallows Giant. They didn't really want to fight the Vampire Fleet Admiral. They weren't really coming to help Wulfric. You could see them just marching straight past it and sprinting for that point. He knows the objective, and so does Phoenix King. Phoenix King, like I said before, is going to use summons to try and slow down their advance, knows he can't let them actually get a position on that point, and he's going for the Lord Snipe, because this is how he wins. The Gallows Giant, we've already seen the horrible leadership damage it can do to the Norskins. If the enemy Lord is dead, and you're doing that kind of damage, you can easily terror out and push them away from the point, and the Phoenix King pulls in the Lamprey's Revenge once again to hold that point. Everybody in this game knows exactly what is happening. Lamprey's Revenge pulled right to where their capture weight is going to be needed. And yes, infantry have a higher capture weight than them, but they're just so good at bumping and grinding with the Gallows Giant firing in from the sides, providing his terror. Maybe he can do enough leadership bombs to push Norska off. He has to hold the point for 2 more minutes, but Norska have arrived. They're now in the square, and capture weight is going to be a big deal. You see all these Marauder flags here, and just so few zombie flags left. I thought that was a burning head or something that could have been game winning for Norska, but it was just a little bit of friendly fire from the Gallows Giant, who is trying to fire sideways down these Marauders and get a lot of damage out. He has had to put guard mode on several times, but let's see a good volley. Pretty solid rip down the line. Marauder Champions routing, Marauder Bearmen also thinking about routing. The Bearmen are immune to psychology, the Champions are not. Explain that to me, I won't understand it. Not that every unit in this game should have immune to psychology, I just think maybe we should calm down on what units do have immune to psychology. Or Bearmen and all of Slaaneash's roster. Anyway, Wulfric trying to pick a fight with the Vampire Fleet Admiral. The Vampire Fleet Admiral at different points this game has wanted the fight with Wulfric, but it looks like for now he doesn't. There is so little Vampire Coast capture weight left on the point. The Bearmen and the Marauder Champions have just chewed through everything. Can the Phoenix King find a way to hold on to this point for 1 minute longer? That's all he needs, as the Gallows Giant is going to fire in sideways down the Marauder Bearmen, get some more leadership debuffs. He's not lending his terror to the fight right now because his damage is more impactful, since half of these units are immune to psychology anyway. The Marauder Champions are so close to routing. The Marauder Bearmen did rout, and the Gallows Giant needs to get another shot down. He's currently shifting targets to the Javelins. I do not like this at all. I think your shots were needed on the main point. I think the capture weight is how you're going to win this. He is up on the balance of power, but I think that's a lot of balance of power in the Gallows Giant. That is a little fraudulent. Norska takes the point, and I think if the Phoenix King ends up losing this game, he's going to want that decision back. That one volley that maybe could have routed this blinking health bar Marauder Champion could have given him enough time, maybe. I mean, there's a lot of Norskins closing in, maybe not, but I don't know. I guess what he was trying to do to advocate for what his strategy was is he realized he couldn't hold the point, and he's pivoting to shattering off those Marauder Hunters to save the Gallows Giant, knowing that this game is going to go long and he'd need the Gallows Giant. That's the best of what I can try and reason as he was trying to do, but this is exactly what I worried. Just javelins or no javelins, the Gallows Giant is now going to be just under constant threat. Wulfric and the Champions are bullying him. There are no zombies to defend him, and the Gallows Giant is piss poor in melee. It can't defend itself against Wulfric. That's just not reasonable. A summon is trying to buffer the Lamprey's Revenge a little bit, who are also getting healed up with a Invocation Heck Overcast. The Gallows Giant's coming to the fight. His melee attack also applies Burnt, and his body provides terror. And as we mentioned, the Bearmen are immune to psychology, the Champions are not. So him joining this fight is not a bad thing at all. I think since he can't be kept safe on the flanks, he needs to just join the fight, provide his terror, provide his leadership debuffs, and also get some buffering from the Lamprey's Revenge. They can kind of half defend him. Not like amazing, but they can kind of do it. Burning Headcaster is routed off after some nasty hits from the Gallows Giant and the Vampire Fleet Admiral. Norska's leadership's looking pretty darn bad, and we have one Jav thrower who's back in, but if the Gallows Giant gets a second to throw guard mode on and fire at him once more, he will probably shatter as well. Coast can't retake the point. All they can try and do is win the grind fight from this juncture. Lamprey's Revenge healing cap is in sight, but it's not here yet. Vampire Fleet Admiral still very healthy, though who knows how much healing he has left to go. And the Gallows Giant healing cap has appeared, and he's taken a good amount of damage. He did rip that guard mode shot and shatter off the Hunters as we were talking. And Wolfric's trying to cycle charge. Norska is blobbing up a lot here, and this is some inexperienced land battle conquest play. I literally don't know the wood. I have no idea, but I wonder if he plays a lot more domination where situations like this don't happen often, because when you have this many units, you need to back off like half of them and let them recover their vigor, because these guys are very tired and exhausted. It lowers their stats, but also crucially it lowers their leadership, and they're not doing any extra work. All of these bodies that are out here are not lending any damage to your cause, and you're just keeping them tired because someone in that unit is participating in combat. Someone in that unit is going to drag your vigor down. As Wolfric gets his ass beat, it looks like the Vampire Coast are going to be able to hold the point. Wolfric routes, and he might even die as the Vampire Fleet Admiral is not taking no for an answer and just constantly getting hits on Wolfric the Wanderer in a very close game. Gallows Giant is at half HP after all that healing. Lamprey's Revenge are below half HP, and that's where their healing cap is, and the Vampire Fleet Admiral is full health, but he's healing capped full health. And there's so much bump and grind going on from Norska that I think a little less aggression from Wolfric, sitting back and applying Hunter of Champions occasionally to just whittle down the Vampire Fleet Admiral of polearms, sitting back with a couple, maybe half of your infantry and letting them take a break while the other half bump and grind. And when those guys start to rout, or just before they rout, you pull them and bring in the other ones. I think some better late game discipline could have turned this into a win for Norska, but ThePhoenixKing pretty wisely handling his units in the end. The Gallows Giant pulling into the melee at the right time was pretty smart. Since it ended up being a grind fight, his decisions to take out the last of those javelin throwers and protect the Gallows Giant was smart. Again, I was advocating for trying to win on the capture point alone, but he did pivot his strategy, and clearly it worked out for him, so good job to the ThePhoenixKing. Very close game. It looked brutal as Norska just hit the Vampire Coast with spell after spell in the early game, but clearly they had their timing down well. They did take that point with about like 23 seconds to spare, so slim margins on that timing, but he got it done. Lamprey's Revenge, the Gallows Giant did very well. Caster Lord did very well. On the other side for the Wood, Wolfric and his caster both got really good damage values. Marauder Bearmen and Champions did what they could to bring this game down, but the ThePhoenixKing very, very smartly took out the javelin throwers. As soon as the engagement started, he threw a couple Gallows Giants volleys their way, and then the dogs sneaking through that front line and really getting onto them. Some pistol summons harassing them out too. He just shut down the javelin throwers and gave the Gallows Giants room to breathe. So that was a good game. That was a really good game from those two players. The Wood is now going to be on the Wood Elves. ThePhoenixKing is on Norska. ThePhoenixKing throwing down the gauntlet is going to be like, now I'll show you how to win on Norska. Takes the Chimera, which I haven't seen all tournament since its nerfs, and Famir versus the Wood Elves. Though if anybody knows the Wood Elves well and how to beat them, it is Wood Elf players, so I do expect the ThePhoenixKing has some reasoning behind this. Famir, with their insane missile resistance, 60% missile resist as long as they have their From the Mist active, and then Ruinous Flesh nearby from the Skinwolf Werekin, so a lot of missile resist on this front line. Marauder Bearmen and Marauders for some cheap shielded, I guess, shielded infantry, not a lot of armor. Chimera in the sky, breath attacks and terror. We have a great Shaman Sorcerer of Death with Purple Sun and Spirit Leech, but more interestingly, Fight or Die. I almost never see that buff on Caster Lords. Then we have some Javelin Throwers and Norscan Ice Wolves. Pretty limited mobility forces from Norska. More heavily going on the monstrous side of the Norscan roster. And aside for the Wood Elves, two Sisters of the Thorn for a bit of skirmish, but also decent light cavalry potential. Front line of Dryads backed up by Glade Guard with Starfire Shafts, backed up by Eternal Guard, and an Ancient Tree Man with just Earthblood to lead the forces. I'm a little worried about the Wood Elf build. Sisters of the Thorn are solid units, but the rest of this, I personally have lost a few games this way of just overly relying on the Wood Elves infantry to protect some archers. I don't know, Wood Elves infantry tends to disappoint me very, very heavily. So I'm concerned. I'm concerned for the Red Army. We'll see. Norska's taking the point. Kind of surprised they don't want to advance further. They are the ones taking the skirmish damage. So the longer this early game plays out, the more damage the Sisters of the Thorn and the Glade Guard will get out. I do expect, now that the Glade Guard are advancing, Norska's probably going to continue their advance. I just don't see him sitting under Glade Guard fire for free. That would be ridiculous. So yeah, they're going to get moving. A little bit of a staggered advance, though. Does need to give all of his units more orders. Now they're starting to move. Things a little haphazard, however. Marauder Bearmen running alongside the Famir. Norscan Ice Wolves are pushed away. And Skinwolf Werekin is going to hop in on the Dryads initially. I was curious. I was like, are you going to stick around to give your Famir more missile resistance, or are you going to try and dive the back line? He is going to help the Famir out versus the Dryads. Again, 60% missile resistance is no joke. Wood Elf Archers do a ton of damage, especially the Starfire Shafts, but 60% missile resistance is really helping the Famir hang on in this as the Shaman Sorcerer of Death is moving through. I imagine we'll see a Purple Sun on this overlap. If those Eternal Guard had continued, probably going to put a Purple Sun right on them and the Archers' heads, but beautiful breakthrough by the Norskins already through the Dryad front line, and my fears of the Wood Elf infantry failing yet another person appear to be coming true, as the Norskins have already gotten to the Archers. The Wood pulls back his Archers. 3 out of the 4 made it to a back line and are starting to reform. Spirit Leech on the Sisters of the Thorn. But one of them is a little bit bogged down. The reserves of infantry have been brought up, which means if the Norscan Ice Wolves can get onto the back line, they can wreak some havoc without Spearmen there to stop them. Some Dryads are starting to shatter, and the Chimera is going to dive in on the Ancient Tree Man. Ancient Tree Man is not Durthu. He's tanky and he has okay melee stats, but Durthu will slap the shit out of anybody who comes in range. The Ancient Tree Man tends to lose quite a lot, as the Marauders and the Famir are also teeing off on him, and he is surrounded by Famir. I know ThePhoenixKing is focusing mostly on, never mind, Purple Sun, Purple Sun. Oh, Purple Sun, 2 for 1. Eternal Guard are gonna die. Marauders take a little bit of damage, but overwhelmingly worth it as he takes out 2 Eternal Guard with that shot. Anyway, what I was going to say is the Famir might go focus on the Archers, but this actually could be a disaster for the Wood Elves as their Ancient Tree Man gets surrounded by armor-piercing anti-infantry Famir. They aren't the anti-large variant. Never mind, but still, a Skinwolf, a Chimera, and Famir could do a lot of damage on him is my point, but maybe they do want to take care of those Archers first, since they're not the anti-large Famir. I do worry that they'll blob up the Ancient Tree Man, who will take a while to die, and the Archers will just shoot at them the whole time. He's one of those things where he's kind of a distraction Carnifex. If you can finish him, sure, but if you can't finish him, attacking him is going to get you killed. So I do worry about that for Norska. Now, as we can see, he's healing himself up. Those Famir are really not getting too much done. The Archers are closing back in. Sisters of the Thorn also jump in. There's a bunch of Archers continuing to fire. We have some tactical reserve infantry. I didn't see them, so I don't know what they've been doing, but it's hard to believe they have 0 kills, that they've been in the right position. So they are running up now. It is just a regular Marauder, but still, maybe could have used their help elsewhere as the Chimera is disrupting some of the Archers that are trying to fire in on the Blob fight. It does look like the Blob fight is getting punished. The Famir not getting great value despite how long they were in combat and surrounding a large Lord. Now the Sisters of the Thorn have pushed them off. Eternal Guard have pushed them off. The Ancient Tree Man remains. Archers on the hilltop firing down on the Chimera, trying to push it away from their brethren. Bounce power shifted against Norska, and I feel like the vibe of the game is also shifted against them. Their infantry are all gone at this point. The Skinwolf Werekin is surrounded by angry spears, trees, and a giant tree. So he's just going to tear out off, and I can't say that I blame him. Norska's mobility is nowhere to be found. The build was pretty light on it, and what was there got annihilated by the Sisters of the Thorn. Chimera's very low, everybody's very low. And the bounce power is just rapidly catching up to the fact that Norska is very behind in this game. Chimera also is going to suicide dive the Ancient Tree Man, but suicide was a big part of that verbiage there. Yeah, he's really doubling and tripling down on the Ancient Tree Man, but he's just not going to get him. Yeah. Anti-large Famir would have done better in that exact situation, but the regular anti-infantry Famir are 1, cheaper, but 2, were better at punching through that front line. So I guess he should have just kept pressing up to the high ground, maybe trying to get those Archers. But I don't know. I don't know if 1 Famir would have made a difference on that. I don't know if 1 Marauder would have made a difference on that either. The Wood Elves hold. Take us to 2-1 in the series. Archers, pretty darn good value. There were 3 Sisters of the Thorn? Where was the 3rd one? Okay. Well, 3 Sisters of the Thorn. Able to peel that back line for the ThePhoenixKing. Marauders struggled. Marauder Bearmen struggled but did okay-ish. Jav throwers struggled. Dogs had a really bad time. Amir also did not get a lot of value. Chimera struggled as well after the nerfs. For the wood, I went over him. He had 3 Sister Thorn. Duh. Idiot. Let's bump the wood up to 2-1. Not 21. See you in the next game. 21. Chaos Dwarves versus Chaos Not Dwarves. Chaos Dwarves Warrior the Chaos. Phoenix King back against a wall. Needs to win this game to take us to game 5. The wood going with Sartorial, and then mostly Slaanesh units for his marks. Let's see it. Chaos Dwarf Lord, Purple Sun, and Spirit Leech on a Bale Taurus. Classic. Hobgoblin Sneaky Gits mixed in with Goblin Laborers for a front line. A couple Hobgoblin Archers, triple Chaos Dwarf Blunderbuss, 2 Bull Centaur Renders, both with great weapons. On the other side, Hellstriders of Slaanesh, the Soul of Damnation in the trees firing up and over a hill. Pleasure Guard, the champions of Slaanesh ROR sitting in the trees with them as well. Then Marauder Horsemen and 1 Horsemaster. Front line of basic Marauders, Sartorial in the sky with Rock of Inevitability, Fountain of Hesitation, and Searing Doom. Neither side has a lot of gusto in melee. Their infantry are all pretty bad, but actually I don't know who wins between 5 Marauders and 4 Hobgoblins. There are a bunch of Goblin Laborers too, but they like literally don't matter. They are not gonna they're not gonna contribute to the melee. They're just bodies. So I don't know. I'm generally so disappointed in Marauders constantly. I know they're cheap, but still, they just fail me at every turn. So I guess I'd go with the Hobgoblins. Chaos Dwarves probably win the frontline fight. Don't know. For like the 50th game this series, Phoenix King takes the point, but we'll see if that ends up mattering. Rock of Inevitability going to slow the Sorcerer Prophet of Death as Sartorial is pursuing him. Currently getting hit with a Spirit Leech after his barriers have fallen, so he is going to take all that damage. The Blunderbusses don't have a lot to shoot at. The wood is pulling back towards his wooded defensive position, and the only blunderbuss that has taken damage is the one that was on this flank, so is kind of pivoting towards his point of strength. And he's leaving the Chaos Dwarves in a gully where the shotgun units are not going to be able to see very well, right? A lot of the fight's going to take place up on a hill, so they're going to be firing uphill into their own troops. Breath attack from the Bale Taurus Lord onto the Soul of Damnation. Tried to knock out the actual piece. I don't know how much damage he got onto it. There is a bit of a twiggy tree in the way that blocked some of his breath attack. Sartorial's coming back. His barrier's rapidly returning. And his Spirit Leech is now down on the Soul of Damnation. He really wants to kill that cannon model so it stops bombing his troops and forces the Warriors of Chaos to come towards the point. I'm curious how close he is to killing it, because the Breath Attack and the Spirit Leech both do good damage to the actual Hell Cannon, but it's hard to tell what its HP is, not the crew's. Chaos Dwarves try and dodge, do a decent job by spreading out there, so the Hell Cannon can't get a great shot. Meanwhile, Marauder Horsemen are throwing up at the Bale Taurus Lord. He does have his heal, so if Sartorial decides to hit him with a spell, he will heal a lot of that damage back. Maybe he's even baiting it. Currently firing with his little flame pistol in onto the Soul of Damnation. Elsewhere, Goblin Laborers are going to fight the Marauders. In a fight, the Marauders should easily win. Pleasure Guard backing off to the trees. Hellstriders also maintaining their position in the trees. We do need to see more rotations. These Hellstriders have been spotted, so the Chaos Dwarves are aware of their presence. As another Spirit Leech hits the Soul of Damnation, is this one enough to kill it? Not yet, though the Soul of Damnation's last fireball disappeared from my view. I can't tell if that was a visual bug or if it hit a tree or something. Yeah, Soul of Damnation's down in a big win for the Chaos Dwarves. So now they're not under a lot of pressure to advance on this hill if they don't want to. They can fall back. Skirmish Cav is a bit of a nuisance, but you have blunderbusses to counter it. You have archers to counter the Skirmish Cav as well. These archers are maybe a little bit out of position as Goblin Laborers are falling back. That does lead the Marauders straight onto the archers, who are now starting to run away. Bull Centaur Renders trying to peel for the Hellstriders. Don't want to commit themselves to a frontline fight when the Hellstriders are ready to swoop in on the backline. This could be incredibly dangerous for Sartorial. That is risky. Put yourself anywhere near blunderbusses that are ready to fire is scary, but maybe he was trying to buffer for his Pleasure Guard so they could get in. Either way, the blunderbusses have an abundance of juicy targets to shoot at right now. Another Spirit Leech onto Sartorial, keeping those barriers nice and low so he can't find any home of safety. Because if he has his barriers, he can charge something, take a little bit of damage, back off, but just constantly Spirit Leeching him keeps him mortal, vulnerable. Final Transmutation is down. It is going to trigger the heal of the Sorcerer Prophet of Death, so he will appreciate that. Overall, the Final Trans is going to be a good cast, of course. It is going to do more damage, but still, he's appreciative a little bit. Blunderbusses push away Sartorial, taking him below half HP. As the other one is still trying to peel Bull Centaur Renders with great weapons, and the Bale Taurus Lord dealing with the Pleasure Guard. They're unbreakable, however, and plus that Final Transmutation, Sorcerer Prophet of Death is looking a little worse for wear. Balance Power is heavily in the Chaos Dwarf's favor, however, as the Skirmish Cav have just been on the sidelines trying to shoot. The Marauders not killing the front line quickly enough to really matter, and the Hell Cannon getting sniped out nice and early. Pretty good wins for the Phoenix King in that aspect. Hellstriders are trying to dive in, even if they land on the blunderbusses, however, who turn and get a beautiful volley on them. Even if they hit them, they're still 85 armor, 32 melee defense Chaos Dwarf units. It's not like you're just going to obliterate them for free. And now the Bull Centaur Renders countercharge in. There's Archer Fire coming in as well. And even with Marauder Horsemen to back them up, these guys are going to get routed off as the Bull Centaur Renders just collapse in from all sides. It's looking like a pretty wrapped up game here on the side of the Chaos Dwarves. I believe we'll be going to game 5 at this rate. Zarthoriel would have to pull something nasty. Like, he'd have to Final Trans Overcast the Sorcerer Prophet of Death and kill him. And then delay the game and skirmish / Final Trans the Bull Centaur Renders too? Maybe? Because with the Pleasure Guard this low, Zarthoriel's at half HP. His melee prowess is horrifyingly bad against 2 healthy-ish Bull Centaur Renders. Even if he takes out the Lord, their leadership should be enough to carry the day. I don't know. I'm failing to see how he pushes the Chaos Dwarves around at this point. There's another Final Transmutation, so that's step 1 of our possible comeback situation. It is Overcast, though the heal for the Chalice of Blood and Darkness did still go off. That thing, I don't know, man. It still seems bugged. I know CA fixed it a little bit, but it seems like it goes off globally anyway. Like, if you cast a spell anywhere, it goes off when it supposedly only has a range of 100 meters. Enemy spell cast within range. Is it? Now, it could be the spell's effect is within range, in which case, then it's, like, always going to go off, but I thought it should be the spell caster. If the spell caster is out of range, you don't get it. But that 100-meter circle did not encompass Zarthoriel at that point in time. This could be really bad from the Chaos Dwarves, honestly. Zarthoriel getting a charge attack onto the Sorcerer Prophet does give him superior stats. And Zarthoriel did get reworked to be a bit more of a duelist than his Warhammer 2 state was. So yeah, taking that fight with him was a bit of a mistake. The Sorcerer Prophet is forced away, and he is going to rout. So step 1 of our comeback plan has occurred. But I don't know if there's enough kite left in the Warriors of Chaos to kite out the Bull Centaur Renders in complete phase 2. We can see some of their Skirmish Cav are out of ammo already, just trying to stop blunderbusses. Other ones are getting pushed away by the Bull Centaur Renders, so I do think it's too little too late. It was a good scrap back from a losing position, but losing positions are losing positions in the Warriors of Chaos. Just not enough left to truly clutch this out. Hellstriders are about to rout. Pleasure Guard down to 4 HP in 1 model. It is a single healthy Marauder, a very wounded Zarthoriel, and a full health Soul of Damnation crew with no cannon. That's honestly a lot of the balance of power is probably this fucking crew. These Chaos Dwarves just running out of the trees to fight their own brethren, which is so messed up. So messed up and wrong. Bale Taurus Lord just died. Probably going to take a couple Hobgoblin units with him, maybe delay the balance of power enough for Zarthoriel to get back to his troops before the game just ends, but that doesn't mean he's going to do anything when he gets here. As the Marauders close in. That's going to be GG. The Wood. Phoenix King, really good value on his Bale Taurus Lord. Hoggout Steaky Gets did a great job. Archers did a good job. Blunderbusses struggled because they were shut down so heavily, but the threat of them was fine. Bull Centaur Renders Grey Opens did fine. For the Wood, Zarthoriel got a lot of value. Hellstriders and Marauders struggled a bit to get their value back. Skirmish Cav mixed, but overall on the better side. Pleasure Guard did fine. Soul Domination did pretty fine. GG's. Game 5 it is. Last replay for this best of 5. All or nothing. Got the Phoenix King versus the Wood. Tomb Kings, Lizard Men, and the Wood taking the double Carnosaur strategy, which I first remember, I think I saw in-cars use it, but it's apparently become quite popular. It's not, Carnosaurs in general aren't that strong right now, but versus the Tomb Kings specifically, they can be pretty powerful because of their abundance of use of those Kemrian War Sphinxes and the Necro Sphinxes after their reworks. The Carnosaurs just trade pretty effectively into those monsters and can get a lot of healing from Life Slons. So in this one matchup, Feral Carnosaurs are eating good. For frontline, Saurus Spears. Hyped to see my Saurus boys. He has Saurus Spears with shields and then Saurus Spears regular, which I believe is allowed under the rules. So it's all Saurus Spears all day. 2 Feral Carnosaurs, Salon Mage, Priest of Life with Regrowth and Earthblood. 3 Pterodon Riders, not with Fire Leech Bolas, just Pterodon Riders. This is a wild build for a Game 5. I've never seen a Saurus rush with Pterodons in Warhammer 3. On the other side, for the Tomb Kings, it's the double cat, so exactly what the Feral Carnosaurs wanted to hunt down. Scepter the Imperishable with Incantation of Vengeance and Cursed Blades. ROR Necrosphinx, a front line of Skeleton Warriors backed up by Nehekara Horsemen, backed up by Ushapti Greatbows. One is regular, one is the ROR, and that is about it. But the monster mash has already begun, and the Feral Carnosaurs take a bite out of the Sphinx Usef before pushing him back, and now Cetra is the next target, who is also going to retreat. Found Banishment from the Salon, trying to clean up the Skeleton Warriors, and I think the Lizardmen strategy is simple but effective. Saurus are going to beat the skeleton front line slowly, but they'll get it done, and the late game situation is going to be Feral Carnosaurs fighting on top of their medium infantry spear support, while your kitty cats are just dragged down by the weight of Saurus spears. For the Phoenix King, he is using his Chosen the Gods and the Ushapti Greatbows to focus fire 1 Feral Carnosaur, so if it gets healing from the Slon, he will eventually heal cap it, he will eventually kill it, but not dividing your fire is generally a good idea versus healing builds, because the more you divide your fire, the more time they have to heal stuff. Dead things can't be healed. They just can't. Even vampires can't heal stuff that's already dead. But like undead units are already I mean, like off the battlefield, it has no flag. You can't click on it. You can't heal it, you jag. All right. Feral Carnosaur getting pushed away. It did get a regrowth. It did get some Earthbloods, but it was not enough. And the Necrosphinx charges in, getting onto the Slon. Where is the Carnosaur? The other one that's still here does need to peel for this Slon. Has to do something. The Slon is currently getting murked. Jaff's Incantation of Curse Blades giving 25% more damage. The Slon using Earthblood on himself, but shot after shot is hitting. That Slon is below half HP. In comes the Carnosaur to try and save him, pouncing on the Necrosphinx ROR. And their Saurus Spears getting a little bit of poke down, but the Necrosphinx is doing some good work. Pterodons throw their lives away to peel the Ushapti Greatbows off of the Slon for this moment. Just need to save that Lizardman Lord. Balance of power is 50-50. Lizardmen are in a good spot. The second Feral Carnosaur, the one that got the regrowth, has returned. And the Sphinx at Usef gets some Nehekara Horseman support, but he is alone as far as giant monsters go in a 2v1. He's trying to get out of there, but he just can't. The T-Rexes are staggering him over and over. He's lost a really good chunk of HP, and the Slon is alive. Now, remember what I said at the start, where he was doing a great job of focus firing. Now, that was a great pick on the Slon. It was a unique opportunity, and he took it. That's fine. What I'm trying to point out is the Slon was close to dead, but if nothing can finish him off, it's not going to matter. He's going to heal right back up to full, and you see the Phoenix King knows that, and he's back on the hunt. Cetra and the Necrosphinx both going to run out here. Now it looks like they've pivoted. They're going to try and take out the healer and the leadership. Without them, the Feral Carnosaurs are weak and easily scared monsters with very limited health pools. But the Slon is peeled by the 2 Feral Carnosaurs. The greed of the Tomb Kings could be their undoing, as now Cetra abandons the Sphinx, doesn't want to die with him. They were going to die. They were both going to die if they stayed there. There was enemy spear support. The Feral Carnosaurs are better duelists than you individually. Cetra is the real deadweight there. The Sphinx can take on a Feral Carnosaur 1v1, but Cetra is actually a horrendous duelist on his cat. His cat's just nice. It has good mass. It keeps him safe, and it has great mobility, but it's a horrible duelist. 28-34 for melee stats. Yes, he's tired, but bear with me. No anti-large, less than 500 weapon strength, compared to 42-41 for an also tired Feral Carnosaur. And it has 500 weapon strength bonus versus large, so yeah. Cetra is not a good monster fighter at all, and that's why this double Carnosaur build can work so well against the Tomb Kings, is everyone knows that. Everyone knows the Necrosphinx is the actual damage dealer in that combo, and if you just ignore Cetra, you'll be fine. Feral Carnosaurs appear to still be on the hunt, and now that strategy is coming to the fold. Yes, the Lizardmen are already up on the balance power. Yes, they're already advantaged, but this is the point of taking all these Saurus. The late game is coming. The Tomb Kings are running out of infantry, and you still have a lot of Saurus with pointy sticks to poke at the kitty cat's ankles and force them into the ground. The Tomb Kings will return to the sands from whence they came, and the Phoenix King will unfortunately get kicked out of this tournament. The Wood will advance, good for them, but I was rooting for my boy, the Phoenix King. As I mentioned before, he's done a lot of great work for us on our Discord bot. Feel free to hop in and play some games. I'm sure activity will pick up with the DLC coming out soon. So if you hop in the next few weeks, it might be a little quiet, but people are just trying not to burn out on the game before a bunch of new exciting units come out. So feel free to join the server and get the lay of the land before activity picks back up. Or don't. It's a free country. Do whatever you want. Double Feral Carnosaurs did fine. Saurus Warriors did fine. Lifeslawn managed to slip and slide and get away. Phoenix King made some good plays, but he was not able to kill off anything permanently before it got healed back up. A Carnosaur he did a ton of damage to, routed off into the desert, and came back later with a regrowth. The Lifeslawn went down to about a third HP, but then got peeled by the Carnosaurs and managed to Earthblood its way back to life. Healing builds are tough if you can't finish them off, but good sacrifices by the Pterodons kept the Slawn alive, because there were a couple times where if the Pterodons hadn't flown straight into the Ushopti Great Bows and just literally blocked their shots with their bodies, the Slawn probably would have been sniped out, and the extra incoming fire, the damage obviously, but also the incoming fire debuff to his leadership might have routed him, and then if he couldn't keep spamming Earthbloods on himself or staying in a good position, the Sphinxes could have dragged the Carnosaurs out of the Saurus Warriors and then taken a better fight with them, and with their Nakar Horsemen could have probably surrounded them instead. So yeah, the Slawn not routing because the Ushopti couldn't shoot at him at the same time. Big play by the Pterodons there. So GG's, deserved win from the Wood. Looking forward to seeing you in the top 16. Roar. Subscribe, yes.